Hey, how we doing? I just wanted to come on here and introduce myself and talk about a couple of things on my channel. Um, First off, my name is Charles, or you can call me Charlie, whatever. I don't mind. Um, I am originally from Long Island, New York. Grew up there. Moved around a little bit, a couple of times. And basically, I'm from an Italian background. And I wanted to come here today and talk about things that I discovered about myself later on in life that I was never exposed to. I never really had any idea that's what was going on. But I was always one of those kids and, adults that I always felt kind of different. And, I never knew what was making me feel that way. Took me 50 years to figure that out. I'm currently 58, and I guess when I was about 50 years old, I discovered that I had disordered eating. And many people, when they think of eating disorders, they think of, you know, anorexia nervosa, bulimia, but there's a lot of different disordered eatings that you can display. And basically, because I was on diets from my whole life, from when I was a child, that really kind of messed my head up when it came to food and my relationship with food. So I'm just wanting to come here and talk about, the truth about all this stuff and educate you guys a little bit. And you might discover, wow, that sounds a lot like what I've gone through. So if I can help anyone with my experiences and how I discovered it later in life, maybe someone else out there can discover it a little earlier and work on it. Um, so also, I was from a narcissistic kind of dysfunctional family system, and I'm just basically kind of educating myself on that a little bit here and there over the last couple of years. And basically, it was, my mom, she had like narcissistic tendencies, and I was the first child, so maybe I got the brunt of it. Um, Not really sure, but I definitely um, suffered from it because she put on me, I think, a lot of her emotional and or emotions or feelings of, not being good enough and stuff like that. And my dad was kind of, I mean, he was a good dad when we were kids, but then he became a little more aloof, and there's a whole thing there, but I'm not going to get into that. Um, so my brother wound up to be the golden child of the family, and I was the scapegoat. Nothing I did was like good enough, or you know, got blamed for stuff, or they say the scapegoat children are the truth tellers, so everything was like a show in our family. So my mom would say, "Don't tell him this," or "Don't tell him that," or you know, it was just so I was at risk or risking the family's reputation. Not that it was any kind of reputation. We were just a regular middle class family. Um, but those little things as you grow up that you're exposed to, that you are put through, um, they really kind of mess with your head. So I wanted to come here and just kind of lay it all out and tell the truth to you guys, and maybe you'll see maybe some of my stories are familiar to you. Maybe you've been through the same thing. Maybe you have a friend or a family member that's been through the same thing, and or maybe you'll recognize when I talk about stuff that you know either your family or someone else's family is structured the same way. Now, disclaimer, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a eating disorder counselor. I'm not anything like that. As a matter of fact, because of my upbringing and how I felt about myself, I never really focused in on one career um, in my life. So I I kind of account that to how I grew up and the feelings of being a scapegoat child. So, um, but I was a licensed massage therapist when I lived in Florida. I did that for about 11, 12 years. And after that, floundered around a little bit. And then I became a legal or paralegal, I guess you could say. And I managed a department in a law firm for about 8 years. And I kind of struck out on my own. And, throughout my life from 23, 24 years old, I waited tables and I bartended and, I was pretty good at it. I'm a very like friendly, like personable guy. I like to, have a good time when I'm at work. Very laid back, except when my Sicilian temper comes out, but that's not often anymore. I've worked on that over the years, and I've discovered why I was more of an angry person when I was younger, which is all due to the narcissistic family system and, you know, going through that. Um, but it's amazing how you can live your life and always kind of doubt yourself and feel like you're not enough and feel like, you're lost. And then you discover one day that it's not your fault. So my main issue in my whole life was I was overweight. My, I was a chubby kid. I wasn't like massively, overweight as a kid, but that was part of the problem. My mom, um, we didn't realize it when we were younger, and we actually I didn't put two and two together until I went through my, studying of eating disorders, and um, I'll get into that more later on, maybe in another video, definitely in another video. But my mom was kind of borderline bulimic. So they say, people that have eating disorders, whether they be full blown or just disordered type eating, they do pass it on to at least one of the children, and I was the one. Um, so being that I was a little chubby, I got made fun of one time in like first grade, and I came home and told my parents, and they were telling me what to do, say this, say that, and whatever. And then I guess it triggered my mom into, you know, trying to make me thinner. And if you think about it, even if a kid is chubby, it's kind of ridiculous to limit what they eat because they're growing. Children grow at a tremendous rate. They have uh, growth spurts, and, children are just trying to like grow. The body is just needs nutrition. But my mom would take me to the doctor and, they would put me on diets. And then my mom was always, of course, weight conscious. So they would go on Weight Watchers or other kinds of trendy diets that were, going around during the day in the 70s. And so I was exposed to a lot of restriction, a lot of shame, um, body shame, and shame about my weight and shame about how I looked. And excuse me. So there's a lot to go over um, regarding that. And that all tied into the narcissistic family system of being the scapegoat, because I always felt like a failure. They always made me feel like, I wasn't good enough because I couldn't just lose weight. And, if anyone's out there and your kid is chubby, just let them be. We'll go over how I did it and how I kind of still struggle with it. But I'm always trying to just normalize how I feel about food. Um, and I hope that you guys can learn a little bit about this from my channel. Um, I believe I'm going to call it Food Fight Club, referring to what the intuitive eating um, people call a food fight, because you're thinking about things in your head like, I should eat that, I shouldn't eat this, I should eat this, I shouldn't eat that, or whatever. So I and the Fight Club thing, number one rule of Fight Club: we don't talk about Fight Club, and it's part of the shame deal. And also on the positive side, you have to fight through it. I feel like you have to, you know, come to the recognition of why you are the way you are, no matter what you struggle with. Because there's always like a backstory, and, you know, we're going to discuss stuff, and I'll come on here and tell you stories and hopefully educate you guys with some true science. And we'll have a good time. I like to have a good time. Sometimes I like to be funny, sometimes I like to be serious. But I hope that, it will help you. Bottom line. In my life, I always wanted to help people, and that's what this is all about. Maybe you can gain some wisdom from a 58-year-old guy who's been through it. And, you know, if you like it, stick around. And I'm sorry if you don't. It's just not for you. But we're all at different points in our lives, so hopefully maybe one day you'll come back. All right, guys, we're about 12 minutes, and I don't want to bore you too much, but I will come back and talk to you soon. Thanks. Be well.